Hi, it's Dwyer, dwyercrime.blog. Also, keepingitfree.blogspot.com. Today is December 9th, 2024. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. I'm not going to mention any names, because quite frankly, I think it would be unfair to. But news broke over the last few days of an accuser who is claiming that they were raped by two celebrities at a 2000 event. In other words, an event more than 20 years ago, right? And of course, their attorney has made the accusation in a first amended complaint. The complaint's already been amended. Someone sent it to me. Of course, the complaint is out of the Southern District of New York. Now, let me make a few points here, and I just want people to consider the lay of the land here. We have statutes of limitation for a reason. Understand, justice delayed is justice denied, not only for the alleged victim, but also for the person who is the alleged perpetrator. You know, the longer a case sits stale, the less the ability of an alleged perpetrator to defend themselves. When a case is fresh, people have memories. You can call up the people who you feel have a knowledge of what happened that night, and you can say, hey, Paul, you were with me last night, or the night before, or last month, right? You remember we were at this award ceremony. What's your recollection of that night? Right? Person tells you. Then you can say, well, or your attorney can say, well, would you feel comfortable giving that as testimony to law enforcement or in a legal proceeding? Right? Would you submit to a deposition for a civil lawsuit to just tell them your recollection? Understand, too, when something takes place and not a lot of time has passed, you have forensic evidence. Clothing with perhaps a DNA sample on it. Right? You can also develop evidence. In other words, you could hire a private investigator to go back to the venue, to track other parts of the alibi, to talk with perhaps the Uber driver, or back then the cab driver who may have given someone a lift during the night, and people you don't know, right? A bartender at the venue, the Uber driver will give their recollections, and you can actually mount a defense. Now, we're in a dangerous time, and I mean this. It's a dangerous time when folks are coming out of the woodwork and they're saying, hey, I was a victim 20 years ago or longer, right? The alleged Trump rape victim, how many years ago was that? Right? Then you end up in a trial where it's just a credibility contest that's light on forensics. You remember in that Trump defamation case, Trump was sued for defamation for saying that he did not know the rape victim and he did not rape the rape victim, right? That went to trial. Trump lost the trial. What's important here is to understand no DNA evidence was presented at that trial. In other words, you know, we're having trials decades later that are light on forensics. And they're arising out of the most serious charges possible. Rape, for example. So, I just need for people to understand, I'm a California attorney, I'm not a New York attorney, right? This New York case is operating out of a different set of rules. But I can tell you, in California, if I wanted to accuse a celebrity of rape and not be sued for defamation, just understand that California Civil Code Section 47 provides me with some immunity for claims made in court. So rather than hold a press conference where I say, you know, this person's a rapist, instead what I could do under California law is to file a complaint where I accuse the person of committing rape. Under Civil Code Section 47, I actually have some immunity. So it's too early. It's simply too early to jump to conclusions off of allegations, right? Many of these cases will fade away. A person comes forward, they say, I was a victim in a lawsuit where they have protection against defamation, and the holes in the story aren't readily apparent. The lack of independent evidence, forensic evidence, isn't readily apparent. Everyone lawyers up. Everyone has great lawyers. The lawyers, of course, will, couch their words in a press conference, so they'll protect themselves from defamation claims, right? They'll say simple factual statements like, well, the complaint alleges X, Y, and Z, right? Truthful statements that can't serve as the basis for defamation. What the public needs to understand is that there has been no finding of fact. The allegations are just allegations. At this point, they haven't been tested. Right? We understand that at least one of the celebrities is having major legal problems right now. We understand that, right? That celebrity is in prison, waiting for his day in court, right? Okay, fair enough. I'm just telling you that we shouldn't reach the conclusion that that means that everyone who comes out of the woodwork has a provable story to tell that even meets the burden of proof in a civil case. Right? So, forgive me. People are contacting me. I got a copy of the complaint. I started reading the complaint. The complaint seems to me to be more geared for the press than for a court of law. Right? I want people to simply ask the question as the evidence comes out, if there is evidence to come out, whether or not these celebrities did the crime that's alleged in the complaint. How believable is it? Right? Just understand, too. You hear people talk about the Kennedy assassination from the 60s. And there's an argument that if there was a sophisticated conspiracy, by the way, I believe there was, but if there was a sophisticated conspiracy, why haven't people come out and talked about it? Why hasn't the conspiracy unraveled? Right now, with regard to Kennedy, I believe that you had, let's just say, members of the intelligence community involved. Right? Those people, of course, have been vetted. They have a certain loyalty. They have vowed to protect state secrets, etc. In a situation like this, and I'm just telling you the opening paragraphs of the operative complaint, right? We're already at the First Amended complaint, which means the original complaint didn't fly, right? You know, somebody made a decision, either after a court order or independently, to change the allegations of the original complaint. But let me just tell you, the opening of the operative complaint, the First Amended complaint, paints a scenario that would involve several witnesses, from what I can tell, none of whom work for the U.S. intelligence community. Right? This isn't a, high espionage type situation. If the First Amended complaint is to be believed, right? You're talking about third parties who could have had a representative call National Enquirer and could have made a lot of money, right? Let's just say at this stage, I'm a skeptic, right? I'm a skeptic here. And understand, as I said earlier, I believe that a conspiracy existed regarding the Kennedy assassination. It's not like I'm conspiracy phobic. Anytime two people agree on a course of action that's outside the law, that's a conspiracy, and take an affirmative step in that direction, that's a conspiracy. Right? I'm not hostile to the idea that conspiracies happen. I'm not hostile to the idea that someone could be victimized years ago and be reluctant for whatever reason, right? Their image, their relationships with other people, the impact that their victimization would have on the people around them, right? Someone could say, hey, I was assaulted, but I don't want fill in the blank. My relatives to know, for these reasons. I don't want to deal with, public scrutiny, people doubting my story. The other people I'm accusing or would accuse are rich and powerful, right? We understand. I understand. People have motives not to come forward to report assaults. But let's just say, looking at the complaint here and realizing the holes in the law that allow people to avoid defamation claims by couching their allegations in the form of a complaint that could well be dropped before trial. In other words, you get the story out there and then you can walk away from the complaint, right? You can say, hey, we'll drop these claims, summarily, if you agree not to sue us for malicious prosecution or what have you, right? Just understand, it's too early right now to reach any conclusions, right? I read the beginning of the complaint. It didn't seem believable to me, right? I think it's, just one of those costs of living in a free society, that we hear about allegations before any evidence is presented, before any of the accused have an opportunity to be heard. Those are my thoughts this morning. Let me hear yours. Understand, in my private practice, I've represented both victims of domestic violence as well as people accused of domestic violence. Right? I've been involved in trials involving domestic violence. Just food for thought, right? I don't mean to sound insensitive here to allegations of an alleged sexual assault that took place more than 20 years ago. But just understand, You know, it's very hard to tell at this point whether the claims are credible, whether or not they are. Right? In America, you are presumed innocent. Right? Let's take our time in processing this and not reach conclusions. It's 9:19 a.m. in the morning. I've already received from one person the complaint. I'm wondering by the end of the day how many people are going to send me this complaint. Right? Let me also say too that the Donald Trump defamation case is noteworthy because it just shows you how even a former president could end up in court on a case that's light on forensics and actually lose that case. Food for thought. Let me hear from you. I hope you leave your comments in the comment section of this YouTube video. Thanks for stopping by.